What would you do if you accidentally discovered the house next door was occupied by something not human? Something horrifying. Something unspeakably evil. No one believes you.
Mom, I didn't have a nightmare.
Not your
They
mom.
did kill a girl over there.
Not your girlfriend.
Charlie, is this some sort of a trick to get me back?
Not even the police.
Look, I know it's crazy. I know that, but look, Lieutenant!
It knows that you know. You'll do anything to protect yourself. But it will do anything to protect its secret. Fright Night. If you love being scared, this could be the night of your life.
Welcome everybody to the Cast from the Coast. My name is Adam Miles and I'm joined as always by Tim Johnson and Josh Lambert. And we have once again special guests, Aaron and Jamie Peerless. Hey! We love having other horror fans on. This is great because then it's just not me spouting off and the other guy's trying to get a word in.
Yeah, and it gives us an audience to pick on Adam.
Yeah. Nice beard, Adam.
Thanks. I don't see the problem yet.
Looks like
Done!
fuck this show and fuck this.
All right, Tim. Oh, wait. Never mind. All right. So let's get right into it, everybody. So tonight we are going to talk about a great movie. Tim, what are we talking about tonight?
The 1985. I keep feeling like every movie we rate is from 85, but this is also from 85. Fright Night.
Love it, Aaron. Love it. Wait. Is this another movie that Josh has never seen? Did you just admit that, Josh?
Yep, accurate.
Well, you know what? Is it surprising though?
Nothing.
No,
None of
shouldn't
this
be.
shit surprises
No.
me anymore.
Not surprising
No.
at all.
But this is part of the show. I mean, we're just going to rename the show Movies That Josh Has Never Fucking Seen, and that'll be every episode is just, Josh, pick a movie out of this fucking list you haven't seen yet, because we're going to watch it. So, okay. 1985's Fright Night, written and directed by Tom Holland.
I know. I was like, Spider-Man fucking did this movie. He wasn't even alive yet.
He'd be talking about this movie in one of his fucking movies. Are you guys old enough to remember that old movie? Then we all feel really old and bad about ourselves. So, Tim, give us a synopsis while you're at it.
Okay, so I got it's shorter because of the train wreck of the last synopsis from the previous episode. So, a teenager discovers that a newcomer in his neighborhood is a vampire. So he turns to an actor who plays a vampire hunter to help him deal with his undead neighbor. Fright Night.
Fright.
Boom.
Boom.
Starring one of the best named vampires in fucking cinematic histories. Jerry Dandridge.
Jerry Dandridge.
Just the name rolls off the tongue. It's like, you think about, like a really wickedly dressed vampire and really, ladies' man, but Jerry Dandridge. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just the impression I get from it. All right. Let's get a little bit into the story itself. So this movie is like the epitome of the monster next door, and once again fitting into that category that we've talked about many times before, where there's a danger scenario where somebody of school age or younger sees the situation, but cry wolf, nobody believes. So the danger is that have to deal with this and convince people that it's a problem, and once again try to solve the solution or solve the problem and kill the monster and all that kind of shit. So this is the kind.
Is that what you got? Is that what you? Because I got that it was just a horror version of the fucking Alfred
The
Hitchcock
Rear
movie.
Window.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another way to look at it too.
I fucking love that trope though. The
Yeah,
the
I do
kid
too.
the kid sees the monster and his parents don't
Yeah.
believe
Ah,
it.
you're full of shit. Stop drinking Uncle Red's beer.
I lived that, buddy. I lived that.
You live that. That's right. Those are stories that we've documented on the show in the past. Josh and his Beetlejuice doll that comes to life and fucking terrorizes him. That's why it's under glass in the background there, by the way. He keeps it on the shelf, so it is
It's pretty
funny.
hilarious.
Pretty-
Yeah. So nobody believes Josh that his. I mean, sorry, we're talking about the movie, not Josh. So, nobody believes, the guy that his neighbor is killing people. So whenever he sees women coming to the house, he sees really sexy scenes through the window, and then all of a sudden that woman ends up dead and on the news the next day, and he swears, oh, that person was just in this house and I can prove this guy killed her. And then all of a sudden it's vampire. So yeah, not a lot more to talk about when it comes to the story itself, but I mean, if anybody has any comments about the story and the trope that we're actually going to be talking about tonight, pitch in.
Nope.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Characters. Let's talk characters, shall we? So obviously, Jerry Dandridge. Let's talk about Jerry Dandridge because he's top billing in this movie to me. Chris Sarandon, fucking Prince Humperdinck himself.
Yeah.
Love this.
Prince fucking Humperdinck.
That's where I knew him
Yes!
from. Thank you. That was bugging me.
Well, he was also Mike Norris from Child's Play
Was.
too.
Yeah, but that's where I was thinking. I was like, man,
He
this
looks
guy
like a Humperdinck.
Fucking Prince Humperdinck.
He is
He
a
is a
Humperdinck.
Humperdinck.
Fucking
Humperdinck.
But once again, proving that this guy's got range in his fucking acting skills. Because I love Princess Bride, unabashedly, unashamedly. I love The Princess Bride, and to see him in this movie as well as a still a little bit of a hidey-tidy character for the most part, but with reason. He's like a Regal-esque vampire living in modern day, suburbia is really what it comes down to.
Modern day, 1985.
Well, at the time, Tim, modern day.
Did you see the fucking sweater he's wearing in the fucking club?
That shit was
swab?
dope.
The big fucking, like it looked like one of those sweaters that a girl would wear over the shoulders and shit.
Yeah. It reminds me.
But
of
I mean, I'm not gonna lie though, he wore the fuck out of that sweater. Like
Yeah.
he looked good in that sweater.
You know that commercial where the guy's neck is all stretched out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it reminded me of.
Oh man, and when the music kicks in and Marcy Darcy stares lovingly into his eyes, oh yeah, it's all fucking great.
I'm not
That
gonna
whole
lie to
scene
you.
was
Before
fucking
we even
weird.
talk about that, like for the longest time, I was a big Married with Children fan, and I couldn't stand her, Marcy. I could not stand her. And then I'm like, oh my god, I'm
She's
watching
hot.
this. I was like, she's fucking adorable. She is adorable, and in this movie, adorable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Amanda Bears.
Yep.
Yep.
Amanda Bears.
So Jerry Dandridge himself, the vampire next door, played by Chris Sarandon. So he's like I said, he's a little bit of the playboy type of character, a little bit he's the kind of vampire character that I imagine if he had been alive for 300 years, he would have been regal, living in a palace somewhere. You know what I mean? Like he's got that wave to him, right? He lives with his, what do you want to call him? His ghoul, his familiar, his boy toy, whatever you want to say, in the house. And
That guy was awesome. When he came around the corner at the start.
Yep.
Do you remember when he comes out of the corner? What are you doing, boy?
No, it's
Yeah, kid.
That's what it
Yeah.
Get your shit straight, Tim.
was. Whatever, man. Whatever, Adam.
I'm finally getting to pick on Tim, and it's backfiring.
where do they get all these ghouls? Seems like every vampire's got some crony that will just do all their bidding for
Well,
'em.
yeah, but I mean, there are movies that have gone into the.
Fan of effect, we have Adam. Am I right?
Seems like everybody's got Adam.
Get some sunscreen for this boy, because he just got burnt.
And I'm pasty, so it works out on every level. What was just said, so.
Adam, that's like
Ouch.
2 burns, I think, already, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not keeping count, but I think I'm on my 3rd degree burn now. Yes, that's right.
We need a little counter up in the corner.
Ding!
there somewhere.
Yeah.
Fucking, I'll do some animation.
Adam
or
Burns,
whatever.
ding!
Yeah.
Or one of those like Mortal Kombat counters where it's got Adam's name and his health bar. It keeps ticking down.
At the end of the episode, Adam's in the red. Finish him! Oh my gosh, is that gonna be a segment on the show now? Finish him, where Tim just fucking rips me apart at the very end.
Just
Up,
5
down,
minutes of
easy,
roast.
left, right, punch.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, we got
Anyway,
this
it's the
suave
movie.
ass
Yeah, the
vampire.
movie.
We got
You
the
have the
crony.
And Tim had already said it. We have Amanda Bears as a character in this movie. Well, I mean, she plays Amy in this movie, Amy Peterson. And Tim said it, she's adorable, but it's like one of those things where it's like the vast majority of people who will be watching this movie will remember her from Married with Children, where she played a much different role because she was the annoying high-pitched neighbor. But in this movie, she really I can actually separate her from Marcy in this movie, because she really did play the role well. I mean, she was the girlfriend. She was was she high school age, I guess, when she filmed this? I don't really know, but no.
Oh no, she
was not.
played a high school age. in the
But
film.
she looked like Marcy in 80s clothes instead of Marcy in 90s clothes. She looked the same, but it's so weird because I didn't think she was cute on that show, but in this movie I'm like, she's fucking, like I said, she's adorable. It's weird. Actors.
I agree.
Weird.
I agree.
Because she looks exactly the same.
Right. It took me a while to put it together. And then when I put it together, I'm like, wait a second. I just thought that she was.
Yeah.
I've just been looking at her thinking, oh, she's pretty cute. Right. And then I put the 2 and 2 together with Marcy and everything. I'm like, what?
How did
Yeah. Put the polo shirt and the cardigan on her, and it's like, ew.
How does that work?
Yeah.
And the head bob, the chicken. Why are you talking to me like that, Al?
Right.
All right, so we have her in the movie. Then we have obviously the main love interest of Amanda Bears' character. We have Charlie Brewster, the main character of the movie himself. So Charlie Brewster is the boy next door who determines that we have the vampire living next door, and in Jerry Dandridge.
And I think if this kid couldn't act the way he did, this movie would have sucked. I feel that this he made this movie great. Just his reaction to everything, his timing, I thought he was great.
Yeah. And it's weird too, because he's one of those actors that I don't really know from much else at all. I've seen him in TV shows in passing and stuff, but I mean, what else has he really done?
We'll go on his IMDb,
yeah,
bud.
we'll check him out on the IMDb maybe when Josh is giving his notes and stuff like this. But to be honest, I don't really remember a lot that he has done. And this movie, he's very he's enthralling with his character. He does play the dopey kid that is just, he's in trouble. There's shit to be done, and he's getting pissed off pretty easily because nobody wants to believe him. And let's face it, my favorite character in this movie is actually his dumbass best friend, who's for evil, which
Evil got on my nerves after a while.
Oh, no.
I liked when he became a fucking vampire. When he was vampire evil, he was great. But when he was just his friend, it's shut up.
But he's
I have to ask Aaron. I was like, is that his friend or is that his enemy? I'm kind of I was confused. I was like, he sounds like a little bully jerk.
It's his frenemy. That's right. And it's funny. It's funny too because like he considers him like his best friend almost, and he's like the epitome of the horror movie fanatic from the '80s too, right? He even had the nickname. Everybody called him Evil, which he hated for some reason. I'm sorry, if I was living in the '80s and everybody was like Evil, I'd be like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's like great, man. But this guy's like, don't ever call me that, man. It's like, come on, man, that's great. I mean, but this is the character that would have birthed like Randy and Scream. Like this guy knew all the tropes of the horror movies. He knew what to do to handle monsters and situations. He was the one that knew the rules of horror movies before Randy knew the rules of horror movies.
Yeah. He was the toolkit,
right? You had him, which eventually, if you went into a comedy movie, it would have evolved into Chainsaw from Summer School, and then from there, it would have went to Randy and Scream. So this is the best friend who, loves horror that much. So, but yeah, it was a very weird relationship. There was I remember sitting down to watch this movie again, going, "Do these guys really actually like each other?" Like,
yeah, I didn't get that vibe at all.
No. Me either.
No, not at all.
Like especially when he what's his face fucking comes up to his room for the first time. When what's his name? Charlie. When Charlie comes up to his room and he's like, "Oh my God, there's a vampire! You got to help me." It was almost like fucking Evil was just, yeah, do this and do that because he wanted his $20 or $8. I got $8.
Yeah.
$8, yeah.
Yes. Like he was just randomly spouting out vampire stuff
Just to get his $8.
but not that he actually thought. Yeah, just to get his $8. That was the vibe I got.
That's when I called him a frenemy. Like today, I was like, he's a frenemy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've met a few people like that in Waterville, so those people do exist. I kid you not.
Yeah. She's a Valley girl, just like the rest of us. So
Yeah.
I'm a Valley girl. So's Josh.
Adam
So's
is also
Josh.
a Valley
Josh is a
girl.
Valley girl. Right up. Yep.
I'm not. That
You
City
know what
boy.
you're missing.
City boy.
Yeah. All right. So we got Evil Ed and heck.
You're missing the best character.
Okay,
Adam.
Josh.
Yeah,
Who's
the
the best
best
fucking character
fucking-
than Josh?
Like we gotta even talk about this guy,
The mom.
Gary,
Gary.
Gary Busey as the mom.
I almost said it, but I was like, I'm glad you said
So
it.
this like Vincent Price type character who's like on the TV all the time. He narrates like the horror shows,
Yeah.
and he's on late night like shitty B movie horrors. He introduces them and stars in them. And apparently he also just happens to live in the same neighborhood as our main character. And our main character like idolizes
Peter
him.
Vincent, Vampire Hunter. This,
Excellent.
McDowell.
yeah.
Roddy McDowell. Rowdy. I was thinking
Roddy
Piper.
McDowell.
No, Peter Vincent, he has this great story arc where he gets approached to help him fight the vampires because he thinks that he does believe in vampires, but he doesn't. But then he finds out at the end that he does.
Yeah,
It's great.
He has a good story arc in this, and it's a well played character too. I mean, by Dell, but it's a very particular character in the fact that, like you said, he plays multiple people in this, because he's acting as an actor, and he's got the two personas because he's got this very cool ass, like you said, Vincent Price scenario going on here where he's on TV.
It's a straight up fucking tribute to like old Hammer
Yeah,
films.
absolutely.
Mhm.
The Peter Cushing and stuff like this,
Absolutely.
right?
Like that fucking coat he wears with the sleeves
Yes.
open and
Yep.
it's like kind of a cape. I kind of want one.
Badass.
Like I'd rock that
It's
now.
badass. And then he drops it
Vampire
afterwards
Hunter.
when he's actually meeting with people. It's like, oh, you want an autograph? And he's, the accent comes on a little bit thicker, and he's a general person that, when you go into his actual apartment, it's like, royalty lives like this. You know what I mean? Because he's so idolized by the character, right? And it's, but he's a great character because he does set the tone for the fact that when the movie starts off and it's all about Fright Night, I love the actual like the montages of the videos and shit like that. I love that. and it really does set the tone for the fact that shit's gonna happen in this. And right off the bat, I mean, why would they put this character in the movie if he wasn't going to be involved in some way? You know what I mean? Like, there had to be a way to get this character involved. So,
well, as much as I said, Charlie, the actor, really sold his scenes, Peter Vincent also really sold his scenes. And then, like, when the two of them are together reacting to all the vampire shit, it's fucking gold. Like, just the reactions of like I don't know, I fucking
when the fucking familiar's coming at them. Yeah, on the stairwell and shit, shoot them, and they're just like fucking jaws agape, like, ah.
Yeah.
I think Peter Vincent is like the Bruce Campbell of this movie's world.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's just like a B movie star that like hosts and is like super, almost like jokingly pompous to his fans.
Good points. Yeah. Good points. All right, characters. Anybody else you want to talk about for characters?
I
think everyone else is trash.
Everybody else is just throwaway trash. Okay. All right. Effects work. Let's jump right into effects work here now. So this movie has some pretty...
There's a bunch.
Was that?
There was a bunch of different...
There was a bunch of different effects work. But this movie has some pretty damn cool monster effects for the vampire. It was a different take on the transition of a vampire. He really became very demonic looking. And I thought it was a good take on it.
It was disturbing.
Yeah. There were a couple of, man, I'm telling you, I love any kind of movie really in 1980s, just absolutely rocked, right? It was the year of practical effects that, you know, I mean, it was just absolutely fantastic during the 80s. This Fright Night to me is, I think that was probably the second horror movie I saw after, you know, Silver Bullet or whatever. But I'm telling you, this one here was the one that really solidified to me that this is how makeup effects should be. And man, do they ever show them off pretty good in that, right? Especially with the transition at the very end. You know, he's half human, half, you know, just absolutely fantastic, all wet and the whole thing. Yeah, you know, I try to pick it apart. The only thing that I would say would be kind of on the edge, but maybe they were trying to do it to keep that character kind of looking a little cheesy, was on Vincent. His hair,
it was
a hair color in it, and you could see, like, I could tell. I picked that out every time, but that's just me being a makeup guy.
He also had the fake wrinkles too.
Yeah, they added the dark in to make them. I noticed that right away. I was like, why did they do this theatrical?
See, this is where you guys are going wrong. When you got squinty little eyes and you're watching it on VHS, you don't notice this stuff.
On VHS, yeah.
Oh.
Can I ask Josh, is that how you watched it?
Yeah, with my squinty little eyes.
On VHS.
Yes.
Nice.
That's how you watch 80s horror. You don't see the strings, you don't see the mold lines.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So can I ask a question? Are you allowed giving stuff away? Like, I don't want to ruin it if I call something out.
No.
Oh, no.
Just assume everybody who's watching this has seen it. Okay,
go do it.
Dies, that was like the best scene as far as I'm concerned.
They indirectly made one of the best werewolf transformations in a vampire movie.
I thought it was so good. It broke my heart.
Yeah.
It made me so sad. I was like, his hand. I was like,
grabbing at the piece of wood and stuff like this, and he's like.
I was like, oh my gosh, a poor thing.
You know what? I think I saw some of Raiders of the Lost Ark in some of the melting scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, I haven't seen the behind the scenes of this, but I'm pretty sure that they've sculpted in waxes or something like that, put layers on, and then heated it and sped it up, right?
Dropped off, and I was like, what?
Absolutely awesome.
I love it.
Again, practical effects, right? They thought it up, and the melting face.
Those same effects they used for the ending scene in the original Evil Dead, like that reverse claymation, melting wax, fucking porridge spilling out, cream corn, whatever they could use.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if they used all that stuff today in some of these horror flicks, we would latch onto it, right?
Totally.
You never would. The actors would walk out.
Oh, they would. Yeah.
You couldn't pile the stuff they piled on them in the days, make them wear glass contacts and pour cream corn on their head
On
and
their head,
douse
yeah.
them in syrup and stick them out in minus 20-degree weather and film them.
Yeah, that was another thing that stood out in this movie was the contact lenses.
Yeah.
Like they were incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like horrible.
Whoever designed
Incredible.
those, absolutely fantastic, because it made their eyes look like they were right. They,
Yeah.
sclera lenses or whatever. But the paint job on those were absolutely insane. They made a lot of that movie, because when he's looking into the camera, you feel it
Mhm.
Yeah.
piercing you with those eyes, right?
Well, there was one scene where he was in the club, Jerry, and he fucking picks up the bigger bouncer.
Yeah.
And like his eyes are like
Yeah.
red, and I'm like, they didn't even look fake. Like it just looked like he's got fucking red eyes. Like that's. It was kind
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was like a spot that hit him at the perfect time or whatever,
Yeah.
but I know exactly what you're talking. And it looked like real. There was no.
like they were glowing, but they weren't.
Yeah.
And it looked very
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
One of my
The only gripe.
no, you go
Oh,
ahead,
sorry,
Josh. I want to
Ed.
hear what you say.
The only gripe I really have is I didn't like the main vamp, his like uber form once he really changed. I know that they were going for something different, but it wasn't very vampire. Like you said, it was very demonic. He didn't have fangs; he just had like a set of teeth. I think honestly, like the Evil Ed vampire was better. The main girl there when she changed over her vamp.
Oh my god! With
Better.
The big fucking mouth.
Yeah.
the teeth. Oh, yeah.
That's
great.
life, man.
Yeah.
That was so good.
That was
I
actually.
wish they would have done something bigger for the big bad, but
I mean,
Yeah.
he did have fangs, but when you look at them very carefully, he almost has more like wolf-like fangs, because he's got bottom fang teeth and he's got the top fang teeth. When he converts. But like I said, and you said too, it's more demonic when Dandridge kind of transforms. But it's cool too, because it isn't just like demonic form. At one point he looks demonic, and then at another point he looks like elderly demonic. So it's almost like he is showing age, you know what I mean, at that point, like in his true form, we'll just say, right? And it's pretty cool. But yeah,
He had a lot of makeup, like different makeups on.
Yeah, he did.
There were probably
They
4 or
were
5
never
different
consistent.
stages of things, because when you see him down in the basement, right, hanging over his coffin, he's looking completely different than he did upstairs. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, right?
Yeah.
With his changing and things like that. So I don't know if you see one specific shape for so long that you're like, okay, that's got to be the shape that he is, right? I mean, there's so many different changes throughout. It's hard.
Well, I think it goes with the fact that like usually in vampire lore, they can change shapes at will. Like I almost feel like the one at the end when he actually gets staked and fucking like the sunlight and all that comes through, I feel like that's probably his true form.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I agree.
Not the bad or
Yeah.
any other weird stuff that they threw in there. It was just like they shuffled the deck and they were like, oh, what the hell? Let's just
Yeah.
throw them all in there.
Yeah.
It was fun though. It made it interesting. I liked it.
Yeah. And all the vampires that appear in the movie do have a distinction to them. So we had mentioned this. So Dandridge was very distinct, and he had many different like layers, almost like boss layers at that point. It was kind of funny. Yeah.
Good call. Yeah.
Boss layers.
Boss layers.
You've
Yeah,
defeated
I like
my
that.
first form, And
Yeah, no, that's fucking great.
Yeah.
and then you have Evil Ed, who he's probably
Watch him fuck it up right
He's
now.
probably one of the more iconic vampire looks in this movie, because he is more of a traditional vampire. But when he's walking around with that fucking cross, burn singe into his forehead.
I total got fucking Lost Boys vibes from him.
Yeah.
Like just him being young, you get the spiky hair, and
Yeah.
just even his makeup. Like there's even one point where he's got fucking tears coming down his eyes. I was like, yeah, he totally. Oh, actually, this came out before Lost Boys, so Lost Boys ripped them off.
Oh.
Lost Boys was
Same.
87.
Yeah, 87 Lost.
But I found, as much as Tim was saying that Evil Ed became annoying at one point or another, when he was a vampire, his playful asshole attitude was
great.
perfect.
It's great.
Because it
was.
just pissed on you. You know what I mean? Like he was an asshole about everything. It was great. You know, you're so cool, Brewster. You know, it's fucking great, right?
I don't know. Yeah. No, I think I agree with you.
He was one of my favorite characters, just for comic relief only.
Yeah.
I'm still confused with the werewolf. Like, where did the fucking werewolf ability come from? Can they all do that, or is it just
They
Ed?
speak to wolves, and they also have ability over top of like bats and things like that. So I didn't understand the wolf thing at all at first, but it makes sense if they have some kind of like charm over those kind of animals. Then maybe
because like Dracula had the wolves that he could summon, and he could change into a bat.
And
Right.
Bram Stoker's Dracula could change
change
into a wolf too.
You could.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
this seems like they're going more
That's
to a
amazing.
direct traditional vampire lore.
Yeah.
I think they initially picked the bat because the bat goes into a cave during the day. It's always at night, right? So everybody automatically picked that was the form that Dracula's or a vampire's going to have as a bat, right? I don't necessarily think that it was the bat. I think they could transform into a bat to get into the cave, to get out of the sunlight, and
So technically, they could turn into an owl if they wanted to.
right, or a wolf, or right, yeah.
And
Vampire owl. Vampire squirrel.
Vampire owls, yeah.
Owls are creepy, man.
Yeah.
Owls are creepy. I'm not gonna lie. I like that idea. That's
Has there ever been a vampire movie that's done like the grains of rice counting thing? Have you ever heard of that before? That vampires they have to stop and count.
Yeah, the coins and stuff that's dropped on the ground. So like,
Right?
You literally just pulled the
how
count.
you just tied that together. That was. That's where they got the count from. That makes so much sense.
I'm losing my shit over here now.
I want to see that in like a genuine vampire horror movie. That's how they escape. They just throw their change on the floor.
I'm going to
and
tell
run.
you right now, I do recall seeing that in at least one movie. There was a moment where it was like somebody throwing stuff, and the creature was like pissed off. He's like, "I'm gonna kill, damn it!" And he's like starts counting what's on the ground. I'm gonna look that up a little bit later because I swear that did happen in a movie at one point, and I don't know what it was. It could have been like Dracula Dead and Loving It from Mel Brooks or some shit for all I know, but it did happen at one point. That's funny. Oh man. All right, Josh, do you have any notes for us?
I did take notes.
I hope one of them is, oh my God, Humperdinck's bopping.
Well, no, I couldn't piece it together. I didn't realize it was Humperdinck.
I literally said that out loud. When I was
What's
watching it, I was like, oh,
It's Humperdinck. Yeah.
Fucking mercy.
Hello everybody, I am Fabio Frizzi and you are listening to Daycast from the Coast.
Alright. So this is my recorded notes for my first viewing of Fright Night, recorded April 5th, 2020 at 9:54 p.m. These two are talking like 7th grade drama students. If this is going to be the acting that is happening in this film, it's going to be a bad one.
Oh, you at the very start, the movie? Yeah.
That
my kid
kiss
said
sound
the same
effect
thing.
is the most
He's like, "What's
cheesiest
going
thing I've
on?"
ever seen
Yeah.
or heard. Oh, thank God, it was just the TV. Great fake out. Thank you. I legitimately thought Adam had me watching something where that was the level of acting we were going to be listening to.
Why blame me? What the fuck?
Because you wanted to do these two movies.
Charlie is getting a little handsy here. And then the next note was, why does he have binoculars on deck? He's just got binoculars by the window, this little pervert just looking out the windows watching people. It was my fault, not yours, quote. This movie is completely unrealistic. A woman has never said this before. This spiky-haired kid in the orange shirt is definitely a serial killer. That was evil. Busted watching the neighbors bang. Immediately wakes up your mom.
Yeah, awkward.
Strange. So this is one of my favorite horror tropes. The kid sees it and no one believes him. And another favorite one is the incompetent police department. $8 for survival advice. Really good deal, Ed. I said, oh snap, the rules. This movie is hitting all the right notes so far. She invited him in. Oh fuck. He's so arrogant. I love it. He knows you know. And then my next note was, did he just bang his mom? Did he?
No.
Maybe.
I think he did. I think he's like, yeah, fuck you, and I'm fucking your mom.
They left
And
it
then
open to interpretation.
That's
Yeah.
an interpretation.
The next note here is, tossed him right through the closet. And then, why the fuck was his window nailed shut? Why give him the choice? This vampire is really weird. He's like, yeah, like he gave him the choice. He's like, just pretend like you never saw anything at all. It's like you're a vampire. Just slit his throat. Didn't like the reveal of his Uber vamp mode. Looked kind of lame, honestly. Did the mom just offer her son a high-level narcotic to go to sleep?
Yep.
Yeah.
Valium.
Yeah.
I would just pop some Valium.
Oh my god. Demented men in ski masks hacking up versions. That is a pretty solid meta gag towards the horror community. He only had $8 yesterday. Now he has enough money to go out and buy a room full of garlic and candles. Candles aren't cheap, man. For those who believe in vampires, he invites strangers in pretty willy-nilly. That would have been Vincent. Or not Vincent. Yeah, Vincent. Oh my fuck, he has no reflection. Vincent is a vampire, pretending to be a vampire hunter on TV. At this point, I was convinced that was the plot. Because he's talking about how the mirrors and the stuff, and they shot each scene with him not in any of the mirrors. So I was convinced at this point that that character was a vampire. And then I wrote, this vampire eats an awful lot of fruit. I don't know if you noticed that. Every scene that the main character walks in, he's like, eating an apple.
It's part of the trivia. It's part of the trivia.
Like, okay, I was like, why? Why is this guy, is he worried about his vitamin C intake or something? Vincent grabbed the cross. Maybe he's not a vampire. And then this is one of the quotes. Hey, where are you going, Pencil Dick?
Yes.
This super rural town has some pretty urban alleyways. How is this movie only halfway through at this point? Hurry, there's a vampire out here. I said, well, he's not wrong. That's when Ed was at the door and he's like, let me in, there's a vampire out here. Evil's Fang's overall makeup is amazing. Not traditional vampire, but very cool. And then I just wrote, this whole club scene is very weird and making me feel uncomfortable. Now it got even weirder. He's been calm and under the radar this whole time, and now he's just slashing bouncers in half. I wrote, evil is fucked. Nothing ages better than an 80s soundtrack. The cinematographer really wanted to frame up as many times as possible with the vampire standing behind that nice stained glass. There was like 8 scenes where he walks out and stands right in front of that stained glass.
I caught it too. I was like, when is it gonna break it?
Yeah, you know the cinematographer's like, make sure you angle it up perfectly so that we can see that stained glass. You have to have faith. That's fine, it's in the rules. But why did it work for evil? So the cross whole thing, one of the rules is the cross only works if you have faith in the cross. So Vincent wasn't able to use the cross on the main vampire, but he was able to use it on evil. Don't know why.
Could be because when, I don't know, in that split second, he was like, believed in God.
Or
maybe?
evil had faith in the cross? No, I know.
No, because it would be the person that.
Yeah, Holland.
That doesn't make sense.
No.
I think the script supervisor.
Someone done fucked up.
Yeah.
That was a flub.
The yarn wig is a little much. When his mom was.
So awesome, and he's dancing on the
It's
bed.
like
and
wigging
shit.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote, where the fuck did the werewolf come from? I thought this movie was about vampires. I just wrote, so the vampires can turn into werewolves. Again, a little much. Stop making the rules more complicated than they need to be. Although
It's
I
a
do
rule,
guess,
though. It's a rule.
although I do guess that wolves were in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
You guessed right.
More rule. So if they kill the head vampire before she turns completely, the curse is reversed. Okay. He was just bluffing. Quote. So what is he? Definitely not a vampire or mortal. Some sort of slime-filled ghoul. Practical effects for the giant bat. Amazing face for Amy. Very creepy. Okay, so amazing practical effects on the giant bat, and then Amy's face was very well done as well, with the big smile. Nice effects for dusting the end vamp. And I wrote happy ending. I sure hope not. I said the whole story arc was just about Charlie getting laid.
Yeah.
And it starts with her like
Starts with a rejection, ends with
being
it's good.
and then by the end, it's all gravy.
See the shit I did for this?
I'll take the evil eyes as a cliffhanger and not a true happy ending, so I'll give it that point.
Evil eyes, yep.
Yep.
And evil's laugh. So,
yeah.
Okay. Good notes. And those are your notes. So, I do believe it's trivia time with Tim.
In 2015, when asked if he could do a sequel to any of his movies, ignoring existing reboots through YouTube, writer-director Tom Holland replied that he would love to do a follow-up to the original Fright Night, utilizing the original cast. His proposed plot was Charlie is a single father, inherits his mother's home when she passes away. Soon after taking up residence, his two teenage children become convinced that there's something evil next door, namely Evil Ed, who's squatting in the abandoned mansion next door, attempting to resurrect Jerry Dandridge. I would watch the fuck out of that.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't know how I could top that. That was pretty
That's
good little
bold.
juicy little piece of trivia. The film's genesis came in Tom Holland wanting to do a vampire story crossbred with The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Avoiding using special effects at the expense of good acting, Holland included plenty of humor, warmth, and relationships. He also wanted to make it valid to the modern audience, rooting in reality, hence the suburbia setting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the reason why fucking Jerry was always eating fruit, it was Chris how do you say his name? Chris
Blah, 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 blah.
Chris Shandon?
Chris Sarandon.
Sarandon.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was Chris Sarandon's idea to have Jerry eating apples throughout the film. While researching vampire lore,
Forbidden fruit?
no, he looked at the information about bats and included that Jerry must have a lot of fruit bats in his DNA.
Oh, wonk, wonk.
I like
You
it.
see, fruit bat. Yeah, because I didn't think vampires could eat people
Apples.
food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was confused over that too, so that's good to know.
Yeah, but it gets back to what we talked about earlier about is it just that he can turn into a bat, or is it that he can turn into anything because he's a vampire, a shapeshifter?
Mm.
You know,
Okay.
they turn into
Okay.
things of the night.
Fruit bat DNA.
Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Although the part of Peter Vincent was based upon and originally written for Vincent Price to play,
Obviously.
Vincent Price couldn't for whatever reason. Roddy McDowall decided to play Peter Vincent, not in the same way or even league as Price. He goes, he was basically trying to do a tribute to old Hammer monster movies. And he tried to play him more like Peter Lorre or Boris Karloff instead of,
Yeah.
Vincent Price or Peter Cushing. Which brings me to the next piece of trivia. Peter Vincent is actually named after Peter Cushing and Vincent Price.
That's
Perfect.
Right. Yep.
Perfect.
Give me one more sec here. Just double checking something. Okay, so in the scene where Amy and Evil arrive at Charlie's house to find his room adorned with crosses and candles, Stephen Jeffries, who played Evil Ed, was actually suffering from a bad case of food poisoning and literally had to go above and beyond to fake, to act. Because I guess there's some scene, some shot where he's literally covered in sweat and pale as fuck, and it was before he was a vampire, so that would make sense.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And
Apparently,
then it was only a severe case of gingivitis.
Roddy McDowell basically had one of his masks from Planet of the Apes visible in Peter Vincent's apartment, which is kind of cool. There was another one that I wanted to say, and then I think I'm done.
It was in the glass case, Tim. I think in the background, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He had all kinds of props and stuff.
Yeah,
on his
it was
wall.
awesome.
Yeah.
I remember I was viewing right in. I even backed it up, see what I could see.
Tom Holland originally conceived the role of Peter Vincent for Vincent Price. Price wanted to do it, but his health was declining, and he was trying to shy away from accepting horror roles at that point in his career. So that's why it's not Vincent Price, even though it would have been fucking awesome.
Absolutely.
Man was truly a legend.
Was. But he could have got Christopher Lee to do it. Christopher Lee would have been awesome as it too. That fucking voice. I think that's it. I can't really find anything else that's actually any. This movie pays numerous tributes to Salem's Lot, such as the house with the large staircase and the window backdrop, the basement finale at dawn, the old man, younger boy, vampire hunters, human guardian, final demise on the stairs, head vampire, and both by Stephen King.
Nice. Yeah.
Boom.
Awesome. So I found out what I was talking about there earlier. So you guys remember Dracula 2000 from Wes Craven? They did a sequel called Dracula 2: The Ascension. And in that movie, and I remember watching it, it was a direct-to-video sequel, they did have scenes that played more into the different weird lores of vampires, and one of them was somebody took a thing of mustard seeds and threw them on the ground to distract the vampire, and he actually sat there counting them. So yeah, so it did happen. Wow. And the other thing that came up when it came to counting lores, but it wasn't really counting, but distraction, was people were thinking in the original Leprechaun movie, he wasn't counting shoes. The shoes were getting dirty, but he was distracted. He had to pick up the shoes and clean them. All right, so it was distracting.
I remember that one.
That's cool. Little piece of trivia that I found out, which was interesting.
Whoa!
Yeah, I'm gonna jump
whoa.
on you there for a second.
I'm drinking my fucking Kool-Aid, bud.
Stephen Jeffries actually left Hollywood for quite a few years, and after playing Evil Ed in this and a couple of other roles, and he went on to be a porn star, and starred in something like 30 porn, for the rest of his career.
I hope his porn name was fucking Evil Ed.
There was a lot of porn.
It was
Evil Head.
His screen name was Sam Ritter. And he starred in very, very interestingly named films. I'm not going to get into it.
Oh no!
Oh boy!
They ran the gamut.
I bet you Adam didn't have to look this up.
I knew I recognized him.
Information.
An incriminating mole. I love it. All right. So with that, we are going to give everybody's final thoughts and our judgment on this movie. So once again, just to be clear, the judgment is like rating a movie, for public consumption. We have rated S for shit, G for good, PG for pretty good, R for recommended, X for excellent. And tonight, Jamie, I'd like you to go first.
Okay. I am going to rate this as excellent.
Ooh.
And I'm going to rate this as excellent only because I grew up on this movie and it was probably like one of the best vampire movies that I've ever seen until Bram Stoker's Dracula came along. But also because one of my favorite movies of all times is The Burbs. And part of The Burbs that I love so much is that it takes all these mishap, crazy, zany people from all these different walks of life that have to go after the bad guy because nobody else believes them. So this has very much that very 80s vibe of slapstick comedy. I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. So excellent.
You want to know what's fucked up? There's a piece of trivia. This was literally filmed at the same Hollywood backlot of the 1989 Tom Hanks movie, The Burbs.
Yeah. Well, no wonder some of
That's
it looked
awesome.
like,
Yeah, it had that feel like we both kind of were like, oh my gosh, yeah, it totally feels like The Burbs, but it was just, it's beyond recommended. I think that it's a must watch for anybody who enjoys that kind of humor, and because we laughed the whole way through it, and horror. Yeah,
Good
it's
mix.
great.
Good call. Good call. Tim.
So I remember when did it come out? 85, and it would have been on the movie channel, 86 probably. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to go back to sleep. And I snuck downstairs and turned on the movie channel. And this was on. And it was literally the first horror movie that I sat down, and this is the movie that made me a horror fan. Like, it's the first horror. I remember it. I remember the end in front of the big fucking stained glass window, and they were fighting, and I thought it was funny, but the horror was really good. The vampire is the first. Yeah. And I felt the same thing literally a couple hours ago watching it again, because I haven't watched this movie in years. It's such a fun movie. The horror is really good, but it's fun and it's funny in the right ways, and it's got that nostalgia factor, and like it's a movie. I mean, I thought the remake was okay, but there was like this 80s charm with it, and I love everything about it. I'm rating it I'm going full balls to the wall.
Nice. Two X's.
Oh.
Hey, like I said, it's the first movie that it's got me into horror.
X and we got that porno status.
That's what I tried.
Right?
So Adam
Okay,
or
guys.
Aaron, because Josh ain't gonna do it.
You guys don't go silly now. Just remember that is the highest grade possible. So think of all the horror movies out there, and you're gonna put this one on that top shelf.
Doing this show if I didn't watch this movie when I was fucking like 8 years
That's
old.
true. That's true. Next, Josh.
All right.
Shit.
Garbage. Overall, this movie is very fun. Slightly dated. There's a lot of like 80s stuff, like the soundtrack at times. It's very much a product of the 80s, which isn't necessarily bad. There's a great amount of fucking cheese, which I love in a horror movie. It's got to have some cheese. There's some amazing practical effects. Even if I wasn't a huge fan of like the vampire kind of demon-y look on the main guy there, it follows almost all my rules for great horror. I got to give it an R. Highly recommend you watch this movie.
Oh, that's good.
I'm actually very surprised, Josh. I thought you would have totally
I'm
went
impressed.
No, this is worthy of an R. I don't think it's worthy of an X. I don't think it sits on the top shelf of horror up there with the greats. But it is, second shelf right down there, plain view. Grab her, pop her in, watch it once in a while.
Good point. Good point. So 2 X's and an R so far. So, Aaron.
Don't feel pressured.
Oh, no.
Aaron.
Both of my
It would be
hands.
super
All in all, this movie, like I said, it was like the second kind of horror movie I think that I got to see, and I was totally enthralled. It probably pushed me a little further into why I'm sitting doing what I like to do, which is makeup effects. So I have to rate it pretty high, but at the same turn, I'm with you, Tim, when it comes to the nostalgia. Like I was saying earlier, the '80s movies. Like, can you get one that you can sit down and say you don't like? I mean, I love everything '80s, right? It's the time that we grew up and things like that. So the nostalgia factor brings it up a lot of points for me. Yeah. This falls into like Goonies and you know, Monster Squad and all those different movies. The Explorers. I got to make sure I put that one out there because not a lot of people talk about that one. But yeah, you know what? When I rate this, I think I'm going to rate it. I'm going to give it an R myself. I agree that it's not completely top tier, and I should say that the makeup effects in it absolutely stellar. Yeah. I enjoyed. I don't find myself picking things apart when it comes to that kind of thing, and it's hard to, especially when it's done that well. Contact lenses, everything it all came together quite well.
So you're just giving it an R?
Yeah, because
just
I got
an R. She said just an R.
Right. Yeah. Where's my X?
I got it.
Adam.
Can you say something though? Everything you, Aaron, and Josh has said is absolutely right. If this was any other movie without this fucking like emotional connection to my fucking childhood, by all rights, it's an R.
Right.
But because, like, to me, and this is. I put this up there with like nostalgia factor with fucking Star Wars.
Ooh.
Like this is the movie that got me into horror.
Yeah.
So that's why it gets an X. It's not a top tier, but it gets that from me because of what it means.
Right, and you'd be like that with the Siberian rat monkey thing.
Brain Dead.
What is that? The
what?
The Siberian
no,
Brain Dead or Dead Alive.
Yeah. Dead Alive.
Peter Jackson, the Siberian rat monkey.
Yeah, but if you asked him, he'd be like, "Oh my gosh, it's excellent because it has reference to his childhood." But when I watched it, I was like, "Yeah, it's good. It's weird. It's funny. I get the '80s stuff and everything, but no."
I love that movie. We did that movie before, didn't we, Tim?
No.
You should.
You haven't done
Dead Alive, Brain Dead.
Dead Alive. It's so.
Oh, it's going
so
on the
good.
list. It's so good. Yeah, the rat monkey, which they get from Skull Island, by the way, the home of King Kong.
It pretty much like 80% of the fucking filming locations is in Lord of the Rings.
It's
just a balls to the wall horror movie.
Like that.
I kick ass for the Lord. Brilliant. Peter Jackson. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Time to kind of wrap this up a little bit, I guess. So, I agree with all the sentiments here tonight. This movie is nostalgic. It's amazingly well put together. It's got all the right comedy. It's got all the right bits of horror. It's got the suave motherfucker of the '80s wearing the awesome shirts in the weird synth pop fucking bar that they visit. The whole fucking dirty dancing scene with Marcy.
But I loved it.
It's got Marcy.
I loved it.
This movie really does put a lot of what I would consider a true classic 80 movie into effect, and it's got great actors, and it has one of the most, in my opinion, iconic makeup jobs of 80s horror movies in it. And I'm talking about Amanda Bearse when she actually the mouth. Because, if you read Fangoria, if you read anything horror related for the longest time, or you remember Fright Flicks, the cards, the trading cards, she was like a poster piece in the back when you collected all the different cards.
Well, that is the poster for the movie. Is she's in the smoke above the house, right?
And I remember it was one of my favorite makeups almost of all time growing up because just the size of the mouth. I was like, how did the fuck did they pull that off? You know what I mean? Like thinking about it as a child, right? And it was amazing. And it always stands out right down from the the feeling of watching the late night horror movies with the, you know, the Hammer type horror movies with like the Vincent Prices and the Alfred Hitchcocks presenting type of movies, right? Like it's got everything that makes horror great in this movie to me.
But this is where you go, but
I can't go full tier on this because it
fuck you, I'm done with this fucking show.
This movie is very dear to my heart, but it's not like I can say it's
no, it's
on
not.
The, it's not. I can't give it.
No, it's not. I showed what fucking dear to the heart is.
Yes, you did, but I can't give it an X. But I will give it a hard R rating. A hard R. Hard R. Like, it's to the point where I would consider giving it an X, but I can't. I can't push it over the edge. But it's a hard R.
Like I said, it just doesn't belong on that top shelf.
No, it belongs on the
movie.
top shelf. It just doesn't, like, if you were to then properly organize the top shelf, it would be down a little bit farther from the you know what I mean? Like, it's up there.
No,
That top shelf only has room for like 8 or 9 movies, Adam.
Now you're
that's
getting
a
pretty
small
fucking
shelf
picky
on
there,
top.
Josh, but oh well.
Who says how many people or how many movies are on the top shelf? Just
That's
8?
what Josh says.
Yeah, what a weird number. Why would
8?
5? Like, why 8? Just make it 7. Just fucking pick a random number.
There's all kinds of random about Josh. Whatever.
Tim, you can't feel bad, man, because I rated Silver Bullet higher, you know, previously because that was my nostalgic movie that got me into what I did. So mine was
Absolutely.
So yeah, you can't feel bad over that. I mean, I think it's a great movie. It's just scraping the
Like
the
it's sitting right there. So with that, great night of discussion on this, and you know, we've had a wonderful time. So once again, thank you very much, Aaron and Jamie, for joining us on the show, and we look forward to future episodes where you guys can come on and talk more horror and bullshit with the bullshitters, and we'll do that again in the near future. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And don't forget, check us out on Facebook. Like the Misunderstood Art Company, check out the discussion group that we have for They Cast from the Coast. Check us out on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share the videos. We go live every Monday night, by the way. A lot of people have been seeing that. It shows up on Facebook, but it also becomes part of our podcast platform distribution that we do. So every episode that we do goes out on the major podcasting platforms. We have Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play for everybody's purpose of listening. And by the way, we're on Patreon. So, if you feel so obliged, open up your hearts and your wallets and join the Patreon club for They Cast from the Coast. There you go. Make it rain. Make it rain. And help us out with creativity and help us to be able to afford some extra stuff that we want to do in the future. So, until next time, Josh?
Everyone just stay home, pop a couple Valiums, and when you come to, there'll be a new episode up.
Would you like a
Tim?
I guess stay spooky. I mean, I guess it seems redundant after telling
Stay
our audience.
spooky, Pencil Dick.
Yeah, stay spooky, Pencil Dick.
Jamie?
Again, I have nothing to say. Bye!
Aaron!
Hasta la vista, baby.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
Good night.